Good morning, everyone. I'm Bradley with West Virginia American Water, and happy Earth Week. We are concluding a fantastic week of programming and community events that we've hosted here at West Virginia American Water across the state and with our partners this week. We've had such a wonderful week, starting with making contributions to a variety of nonprofit organizations on Monday, to planting trees with the West Virginia National Guard on Tuesday, to having virtual programming for 6 through 12 on Wednesday, and yesterday we were out and about picking up trash and debris around our treatment plants here at West Virginia American Water across the state. So we have had quite the week, and so we are so happy to be wrapping up today with source water protection in the classroom for grades K through 5. So thank you all for joining us. I just want to go over a couple housekeeping items before we do get started. We will have a live Q&A feature that you can see to the right of your screen. So if you do have a question, just select the Q&A at the right side of the screen or at the icon at the top of your phone or iPad, and we will take questions throughout. And as a reminder, let us know where you're tuning in from. Give us your classroom name, your teacher name, county, and the city where you're located. And so we kind of have an idea of where we have folks tuning in from. So once again, thank you for joining us. We're really excited for today's programming. We have a great presentation lined up for you, and we have special guests with us, and thanks so much to Erica from the West Virginia Department of Education, who coordinates all the STEAM activities for the state, on with us today. And I'd like to turn it over to her before we get started to say a few words. So Erica, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Bradley. It really is a pleasure to be here and to know that we have a whole bunch of West Virginia classrooms engaged this morning. I think that there is nothing probably more important to us than water. We really need our water. And as we're celebrating Earth Week and closing out Earth Week, I think that ending it with water, which is so vitally important to all of us, is the absolute way to do it. So I just want to say, great job for those of you teachers that planned this into your day. I hope that your students enjoy this presentation. I hope that you've been able to celebrate Earth Week, and I guess more importantly that you continue to celebrate Earth Week as time goes on, right? We really need this planet that we have been given, and we need to take good care of it, and our water is so important to us. So I hope the theme of water continues throughout your day and throughout the coming weeks. And I just hope that you really enjoy this presentation and all the many ways that you can incorporate STEAM into what you're doing. So you all have a wonderful presentation and a great end to your week.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for Mrs. Sink's third grade class at Gilmer County Elementary School in Gilmer County. Great to have you guys with us. I'm glad you're here. So be thinking of some questions for my other Erica, who I'm going to introduce now, Erica Pauken. She is our Source Water Protection Program Manager for the entire state of West Virginia here at our company. And so she does a wonderful job in leading that team and works within the communities and with our partner agencies to ensure that the water sources that we have across the state are protected and healthy. And so without further ado, I would like to turn this over to Erica Pauken. And thanks so much, Erica.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Bradley. So good morning. My name is Erica Pauken, and I'm just so honored to be here with you today, and just to be able to just learn and celebrate the earth and water. And I hope everybody had a really good Earth Day yesterday, and everybody's continuing to be mindful and thoughtful about how we can preserve the planet that we live in for ourselves and for the generations and the people that come before us or after us. So I'm honored to be here. I actually am an environmental scientist. That's what I decided to go to school for after high school. And so my job here at American Water in West Virginia is to protect our drinking water sources so that we can deliver clean water to your homes if you live in our service district. So let's get started with a question. What is West Virginia American Water? So we are a water utility and a wastewater utility. So if you're in our service area, that means that we send water to your faucets and in your home, or we also get water from your home in our wastewater process, meaning that anytime you flush the toilet or put something down the sink or any of those things, then that water also can come to West Virginia American Water if you are in our wastewater service area. So we have been serving customers in West Virginia since 1886, which is a really long time, way before I was born. And we service 565,000 people in 19 counties. And that's 365 communities. So that makes up about 1/3 of the state's population. So we operate 8 different water plants across the state in various areas. We're in Charleston and Huntington, those areas, and Weston and Webster Springs, Bluefield and Bluestone, and Fayetteville, New River area as well. So we're all over the place. And then we also have 2 wastewater facilities. And so in total, we have 4,500 miles of water main, meaning water pipe, like our main water pipe. And then we have 10,700 fire hydrants. And then our biggest water treatment plant is in the Charleston area. And that pumps about 27 million gallons of water a day. So that's just a little bit about us. And then I actually am going to introduce you to my friend Splash today. And he is going to teach you a little bit about what the water treatment process is, because he does it way better than I can. So we'll just check out what Splash has to say, and then I'll come back to you guys after he's done. So give us just a second to get the video going. It'll take just a minute.
How does drinking water get to your home?
Wow, I'm not really sure. Probably through a series of pipes.
Pipes and all that?
Through pipes.
I have no clue.
I assume it comes up through the pump in the ground?
Through a filter?
Gets to a house with a pump, water pump.
Nature, so beautiful and calm.
Hey Splash, did you know that reservoirs like this are one of the places where we get our drinking water?
Wait a minute there, you don't want to drink this stuff. I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of water, including this reservoir. You know what's in there? Fish. You know what they do, right? They...
Oh, Splash, don't even go there.
You know, a lot happens to this water before we can drink it.
You're telling me? Hey, I've been cleaned up a few times.
West Virginia American Water's experts work around the clock, removing bacteria, viruses, micropollutants, and other harmful particles from the water you drink. They do such a good job that American Water often provides water service that is better than what the government requires.
The treatment process begins here, at the pumping station.
Pumps draw raw water from reservoirs, lakes, rivers, streams, wells, or underground aquifers. Water travels by pipeline from the pumping station to the treatment facility. The first step in the cleaning process removes sediment and particles from the water with the help of coagulants.
What?
Coagulants are chemicals that act like magnets. They cause particles in the water to stick together. These groups of particles are called floc.
Huh, I didn't know I had it in me.
West Virginia American Water uses 2 common processes to separate and remove floc from water. One sinks floc to the bottom of a tank. The other method pumps air into the water and floc, causing residual particles to float to the top. The separation of water and floc is called clarification. With either method, the clarification process removes most of the floc from the water. The next step, filtration.
Whoa! Hey, watch it! Wow, can a water droplet get a bruise? Sheesh! Ow! Wow, I just got pushed through layers of activated carbon, sand, and gravel. Please tell me I'm clean.
Sorry, Splash, you're not completely out of the water. You're filtered, but you might be infected with tiny microorganisms. Don't worry, disinfection doesn't hurt. Chlorine and ozone are just two of the ways we disinfect water across the American water system.
I love chlorine. It's been disinfecting water and keeping me clean for over a century. But what's ozone?
Ozone is supercharged oxygen. These bubbles scrub and disinfect. Viruses, germs, and fungi don't stand a chance.
Hey, that tickles! Stop it already! I'm gonna wet my pants!
Hey, Splash, guess what? You're finally drinking water, ready for distribution to homes and businesses.
Are you sure? How do you know?
West Virginia American Water certified operators and water quality specialists test and monitor water throughout the treatment process, from source to tap. In fact, we conduct thousands of tests on your drinking water.
I'm certified, verified, decontaminized, and feeling fine.
All right, thanks guys. So, and we appreciate Splash for helping us learn a little bit about our water treatment process. So, and speaking of water, so let's talk a little bit about whether or not, have you ever stopped to think about where your water comes from? And when I say that, I mean like before it comes out of your faucet. So, so where does it start? So it starts with the water cycle. And so the earth is covered by about 70% water. So all that water comes and goes through the water cycle. Water changes states from liquid to vapor and then to ice and back again. And it starts as rain usually, or snow that falls onto the land, onto the earth's surface. And then some of that water soaks into the ground. And then some of it runs on top of the ground on the land to surface water. And when we say surface water, we're referring to rivers, lakes, streams, the creek behind your house, whatever it may be. So when the sun sets, or when the sun heats up that water on the surface, it evaporates into the air. And then that water vapor rises and then it forms the clouds that we see in the sky. So when the clouds get cool enough, that vapor that's already there turns back into water, and then it falls as precipitation or rain or snow. And then that cycle just continues to go. It's a continuous cycle, always going around. So where does the water go once it falls on the ground, and how does it get to us? So about a quarter of the world's population, that's about 2 billion people, depend on water flowing from hundreds of miles away to supply their water. And what happens on the land, on a watershed and the land, affects how much water is available and how clean it is when it gets to us downstream. So I threw in a word there that some people may not know. So let's talk a little bit about what is a watershed exactly. So a watershed is the land where all of the water that drains off of it goes to the same place. So that might be a river, it might be a stream, a creek, anything where there's a body of water. It can also be groundwater, water that's underneath the Earth's surface. So just think about a drop of water flowing downhill. So that drop will meet other drops of water that are moving from high areas up in the mountains or in the hills or even at the top of your driveway, and it'll go down lower to the other ones. And so that forms a larger stream of water. And all that happens within a watershed. So a lot of people are familiar with the Canal River. If you're in Charleston or you've been to Charleston, there's a big river, there's a bridge that you drive over when you're going into the city of Charleston. Some people are familiar with that. So on the slide on the right side, that's a watershed. That's a map of the Canal River watershed. So So that river, as you can see on the map, is the blue area. That's the river, and then the yellowish color is the actual watershed. So all of the rain and water that ends up in those places, it is all flowing into that Canal River. So the canal actually flows into the Ohio River, which is in Huntington, at the West Virginia and Ohio state border. So the Canal River actually, as you can see on that map, it starts all the way in the mountains of North Carolina as the New River. So then it flows across Virginia and then West Virginia before it reaches us. So and so the New River, if you've ever been to Fayetteville with your family or your friends, or if you've been whitewater rafting or kayaking the New River, so that's the New River. So that river turns into the Canal River. So more or less, most rivers are pretty connected and pretty, even the streams and the creeks are connected to a lot of different rivers that are close by. So the Elk River is also in Charleston, and that is one of the major, we call them a tributary, but it's really just a smaller river or a smaller stream or a creek that flows into another bigger one. So the Elk River is a tributary of the Canal River, and that's where we draw water that we call a source. And that's the water we treat at West Virginia American Water to serve the Charleston area. So when water travels over the land's surface, excuse me, that might be farms or fields or forests or your front lawn, the streets in front of your home or in the city. It's on its path to that waterway or to whatever stream or river is close by. And so the water is impacted by what happens in that watershed. So what that also means is that the water can carry any like potential pollutants into the rivers, streams, and lakes, and then even groundwater as well. So on the next slide, there's some examples of what I mean by water pollution. So it can be fertilizers and pesticides that we use on farms or on our lawns. It can be just rainwater runoff that's on the roads or parking lots, and that can have things like oil or gasoline in it, or it can be things that are underground that we can't really see. One example of that to think about is like when you go to the gas station and we pump gas, there's a tank underneath the gas pumps, and those are just underground storage tanks that hold the gasoline. So there's a lot of those around the watershed and around our lives that we don't really see and we probably don't pay attention to. But if something happens then and those break, that they can get into the water sources. So there's various different types of pollution that exist within watersheds. So they can either be natural sources, those things like minerals that come out of soil and rocks, or they can be man-made, which are things like chemicals and waste materials. So pollution can enter the water just by runoff, or it can come from a different river or another stream, or it can soak into the ground. So, and then pollution sources are usually grouped into two categories. So it's either typically a point source or a non-point source. So a point source is a specific, it's a location that can be identified. It's a point, and that can be something like the pipe or something that's leaking like a storage tank, or like I mentioned earlier, the gasoline underneath the gas station. That's a specific point, and we can identify that point. And then non-point source is across like a more broader area that can't be tied to any specific point, location, facility. And examples of that include like the fertilizers and pesticides from farms or lawn care. And it can be the rainwater runoff, the stormwater, or it can be sediment, like things like rocks and sand. So each watershed is unique, and it can contain just different types of pollution depending on what the land is being used for. So whether it's a city or a farm or a neighborhood, it just depends on whatever is close by, on what might potentially pollute the water source. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how this all connects to drinking water. So protecting our drinking water supplies is important because it helps drinking water supplies and it helps the environment. And that's sort of where Earth Day comes in. You know, it's like keeping the streams and the rivers clean makes it safer and easier for us to treat the water, of course, but it also helps like the plants and the fish that live in the water, or any other animals that may use that river or stream as their home. And so they need clean water to live in as well. And then our communities also need clean water. And, you know, there's a variety of different things that we use those water sources, not just for drinking, but, you know, maybe for recreation. Maybe you just like to play in the creek, or maybe you like to kayak, or maybe you like to go boating, or maybe you don't like to be in the water at all. I'm not sure, but some people do. And, you know, but we all need clean water, whether we're drinking it, brushing our teeth, or playing in it. We need clean water to live, work, and play. So water utilities have programs to protect those rivers and land where we get it, that we use as like a supply for our water. So at West Virginia American Water, we develop plans to reduce the risk of spills or pollution to get in the water supplies. So, and then there's also things that everybody can do to protect watersheds where they live. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of those options and what you guys can do to help on Earth Day and help every day to keep those water supplies clean. So one of those would be to clean up after yourself and pets. So simple as don't litter. So the trash on the ground can be carried to the nearest storm drain when it rains, and then it ends up in a stream or a lake or something like that, just as the water carries it. And pet waste is similar. It's just like litter. It can run down into the storm drains and then spread bacteria. So just a simple effort of throwing trash in the garbage and recycling things when we can is helpful for drinking water supplies and just water resources in general. Another thing that you guys can help with is to only flush toilet paper down the toilet. So by never flushing things like sandwich baggies or Band-Aids down the toilet, and actually I'll even throw in flushable wipes. A lot of times we get wipes to use in the bathroom that say they're flushable, however they're not, and they can actually damage the water pipes and should really be thrown in the trash as opposed to put into the toilet. So things that aren't biodegradable, meaning that they don't break down by themselves, which toilet paper does. And those can, like I said, damage sewers and just end up in our rivers and streams, or even at the beaches if we live close to a beach. Unfortunately, we don't in West Virginia, but anyhow. So if you see something, say something. That is something else that you guys can do to help. If you see a spill or pollution in a river or stream, just something that doesn't look quite right. It might look like a rainbow in the river. That can be an oil. Or something that is bright green in the river. It could be algae, and those things can potentially be pollution. So if you see something that doesn't look normal, just by telling a parent or a teacher or someone so that they can notify authorities, and then you might be the first one to notice something's wrong. And by quickly telling somebody, then you could help stop a situation that could hurt drinking water or just hurt the environment in general. And then, you know, the Department of Environmental Protection also has a spill hotline. So if you're a parent or a teacher out there listening, a quick Google of the West Virginia DEP spill hotline will give an 800 number where things like spills and pollution can be reported. So that is all I had to share with you today. I'm going to kick it back over to Bradley. I think he has some other announcements, and then we have a Q&A session. So we would love to have answer any questions that you have.
Wonderful presentation, Erica, and thanks so much for that information. And I hope you all learned so much. I know each time I feel like I have a conversation with Erica about our watersheds and source water protection, I do learn something new myself too. So thanks for that. We do have several questions, and I'll be respectful of time. I know we're bumping up against our 9 o'clock. A couple questions and then an announcement. One, Willow asked Erica, what is road runoff, city runoff, and seepage? Can you explain kind of that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So runoff is basically stormwater runoff. And it is just anytime there's rain or snow or anything that drops onto the land and onto this ground surface, and that water is considered runoff. So any of the, like if you go outside after it rains and you see the water coming down the driveway or coming down the street, that's actually called stormwater runoff. And it just creates, it's created when rain falls on roads, driveways, parking lots, rooftops, any kind of paved surface that doesn't allow the water to soak into the ground is considered runoff. And so that water can have any pollutants in it that might be in the area where it falls. So it might be oils and gasolines from like a parking lot. It can be whatever's on the rooftops. It can be like pet pollution. Maybe if someone that doesn't pick up after their pets, it would pick up that bacteria. And then all that water is just it's picking up all the pollutants as it travels across the different paved surfaces to get to the creek or the river that it's flowing to. So hopefully that answered the question.
Great. Thanks for answering that. One more question, and then I'm going to make an announcement. We'll wrap up. Liam asked a question, Erica. Does the same water we drink put out fires?
Oh, that's another really good question. And yes, in West Virginia American Water Service districts, we have 10,700 fire hydrants. So, and that water is absolutely used to fight fires. So that's a really important, actually, part of our process here at American Water that we have to be really mindful of, is that our water is not just used for drinking, but it's also used to help put out fires or for sanitary purposes. So that's a really important part of what we do. But yes, absolutely, that is the same water.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And as always, if anyone has any additional questions, I know I want to be respectful of time. It is 9 o'clock. Please email me. We'll be happy to get those questions answered. And as always, if we can provide any kind of virtual programming or curriculum to your individual classrooms, we are happy to do that. And after COVID, we're happy to come out and physically be in the classroom with you and do activities and programs. So we're really looking forward to that. I do think better and brighter days are within reach. So keep that in mind and please reach out to me. I did post out in our live Q&A comment feed the deadline. We have our Protect Our Watersheds art contest, and the deadline is next Friday, April 30th. So you can learn more and submit your entries on our website, and I've posted the link there. It is open to 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So I know we have 4th and 5th grade classes on with us today. So please check that out. You still do have a week to get those art contest submissions in, and we will start to review those the first week of May. And we have some really exciting prizes for you and a really unique opportunity for a grand prize winner. So please check that out, teachers and parents and grandparents who are on with us today. And thank you so much, Erica. And Erica, great presentation, great information, and happy Earth Week. Thanks for joining us this week. And as always, at West Virginia American Water, it's our honor to help keep your life flowing. So have a great day. Thank you.